roll back mask restrictions. This comes as the CDC is reportedly reviewing its mask guidance. Joining me now is ER physician Dr. Geoffrey Varner. Welcome, Dr. Varner.
Dr. Geoffrey Varner is a board-certified emergency medicine physician, and in his new book, Home Alive, 11 Must Steps for Surviving Encounters with Police, he reveals emergency implemental steps that will save lives immediately. So thank you so much for being here this morning.
So we're about to shoot a very, very intricate interview with a doctor. You know, I'm very excited. Very wealthy man, has done very well for himself.
To the Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast, starring Q the Boss.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. I'm with a very prestigious brother. I'm excited to be here today. Man, this guy invited me to his beautiful estate. And listen, I was so happy that he said, let's do this interview, because I value and respect this man extremely. This is Geoffrey Mount Vernon. You guys got to give it up for this guy, man.
Thank you very much. You're too kind. You're too kind.
Listen, I have to give the flowers where it's due, man. You know, and I appreciate you inviting us here, because I feel like, honestly, seeing it aesthetically makes more sense, right? Well, yeah, one question we're going to get into. What started you into your building your empire and building yourself up?
Let's just say that what many people, or what you will soon find out about me, is that I grew up a stutterer. And the reason why that's important is because when you grow up stuttering, people treat you differently.
Yes.
And that motivates you. But let me go back to people treating you differently.
Yes.
Growing up a stutterer, from the moment I was born,
yes.
I would stutter, the bullies would tease you. Stutter, the bullies would like tease you. In school, the bullies would tease you. They would even tease you in front of the girls.
Agreed.
And so as a result, when you're a stutterer, you got to say short sentences, because otherwise you are going to stutter.
You're going to stutter.
So you learn to have succinct sentences, therefore succinct thoughts.
Yes.
As a result of having succinct thoughts, it developed my critical thinking skills.
Wow.
So I developed my critical thinking skills. I get good in math. Next thing I know, I am good in math. I go on and I major in math at Hampton. I go to Harvard. I go on and become an emergency medicine physician. And think about it, emergency medicine, what do we do? Short, succinct thoughts.
Yes.
And so that's always been a fire. Like, whoa, it is a rub that helps to motivate you.
Wow. See, you wouldn't even know. A lot of the times we see the end success, but you don't understand in the beginning success. He actually used something that he was born with, but he used that as motivating to becoming who he is today, right? And I have to commend you for that, because a lot of people will use that as an excuse to fail, right?
Right.
But you use it as motivation.
Right.
Right. Where did you get your motivation from? Like, who would you say pushed you?
So I have a mother, obviously.
Yes.
I have a mother. My mom and dad divorced early, so this is my mom with 3 kids. I have an older sister and a younger sister.
Wow.
And I watched her deal with us. But just so happened, while she was raising us alone, she earned her PhD from Case Western. All 3 of us went to Hampton. My older sister is chief judge in Prince George's County.
Yes.
And my younger sister is a judge in Prince George's County. And the one thing that we can say is that we all understood the value of hard work. You know, in our household, there's no such thing as excuses.
Yes.
It's only goals.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
only success.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
so that's how we were trained.
You see, what's astonishing is not just you, but also your siblings, right? Successful, educated. So speaking of education, what do you think is the premier reasoning for good reasoning for education?
Well, I think that we've got to recognize that it's not about us. It's about the community,
yes.
Both now and historically.
Yes.
And so historically, people fought, they died to make sure we could get educated.
Yes.
And so education is still important.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's very important for people to go to school and get educated. But it doesn't stop there.
Of
So
course.
just because you get a degree doesn't mean you need to stay in that lane. You can go on and do something different.
Agreed.
But often I hear that people say, well, you know, I can go on and be a millionaire and a billionaire and not have a degree. And that is true.
Yes.
But again, there are people who fought and died so that we could be educated.
Agreed.
And then let's just keep in mind, some professions require an education.
Yes.
You may need a good lawyer.
Yes.
You may need a good doctor.
Agreed.
You may, so these are professions that require it.
Yes.
So it is important, but it's not the defining moment.
Wow. And this was a stutterer, guys. It's hard to even believe, right? Look, come on. You know, what's amazing is, we talk about education a lot on our platform. And a lot of the times, people take the very small percentage and they make it a standard. Like, look at the narrative. A lot of the times, people will take give me someone that's very, very successful that didn't go to college. But I tell them there are way more people who's graduated from college. It's not even close. The numbers are so far apart.
Yes.
And I tell people all the time, stop taking these very small amounts of people and making it the standard.
Love that.
Yes, more people are successful who have degrees, which is not an opinion. This is facts, right? Would you agree with that statement?
I think that's an absolute statement. We can
Yes.
and we can look at COVID.
Yes.
So during COVID, all these people who had different jobs that didn't require degrees.
Yes.
Many of, and I kind of left the field of medicine. I was speaking, I was all the kind of stuff. I was getting it in.
Yes.
COVID hit, the world shut down.
Yes, it did.
So many people, they didn't have their streams of income
Yes.
shut down.
Of course.
So did mine, but guess what I could do?
Yes.
I could flip a switch. Next thing I know, I was back in the ER saving lives and making even more money.
Yes.
And so people say, well, some people gonna watch and say, but you are a doctor. Well, hold on. I didn't become a doctor overnight.
No.
That was a period.
I hope y'all heard that.
Yeah.
The sacrifices, right?
Boom. Oh, man, you
Come
nailed
on.
it. Sacrifice. And I'm glad you brought that up. I tell my son, everybody got a 20-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son.
Yes.
I always tell them it's easier to work hard when you're young versus trying to work hard when you're older.
Oh, my God.
Oh, just keep in mind.
Did you just hear that? Right? So here's my question. Speaking of younger people, how do we keep them focused as a father or as for a mother listening to this? How do we keep them focused when there's so much social media and so much influence telling them that they can literally skip steps, right? You see, you are a doctor, right? You didn't skip any steps. You literally sacrificed all the way to today, right? How can you keep a young mind who's watching this video right now? What are some things we can say that you have to make sure this is in line before you deviate? Because some of them, they leave fast before they even get good at anything. They say, good at a lot of things, but a master of nothing. That's what I'm starting to see with this generation.
Yeah.
They're good at a lot of things, but they master nothing because they never commit themselves really to anything. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that, but I want to pivot back to the point that you just made, and,
Okay.
that is social media.
Yes.
I get it, people. Social media is here. You watch it. But I'm grown. I got my own business and kids.
Yes.
But I still practice discipline. So discipline is key.
Yes.
And one thing that I do is I limit my social media. And look, I make money on social media. But brother, I practice social media. I practice life without it and with it.
Yes.
I was a lot more peaceful when I was off of social media. So even at this stage of 56, I make sure I limit my social media. I get maximum an hour a day of my social media. And it's not consecutive time, and guess what? It's not before I go to bed. Here's why. Because just before you go to bed you're getting your mind ready
Yes.
to heal.
Yes.
And so your last thought is what your mind is going to, let's say for lack of a better word, meditate on as you go to sleep.
Yes.
So I have a process. Before I fall asleep, I think about the 5 best things that happened to me throughout my day. And there's always 5. It can be as simple as, I got a chance to sit down and interview my man Q. I got a chance to meet that. I got a chance to breathe. You set your mind that way,
Yes.
then you get 8 to 12 hours of your mind healing and getting ready for the next day. So let me land my plane. Get off of social media early in the day,
Okay.
so that your mind gets a moment to heal.
Wow. See, I love that because I think a lot of the times so many people are extremely distracted, right? And based on what he's telling you guys is pretty much, even if you are semi-distracted, he's saying by the end of the night, you shouldn't be distracted. I love what he said as allowing your mind to heal.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Because it also is a muscle, right? We must acknowledge that the mind or the brain is a muscle. So you have to allow it to relax too, so it can replenish. And I love that. We're dealing with a lot of culture, right? I have to ask this question. Why do you think so many of us are so economically behind?
Well, let me define. Let me seek clarification. When you say of us, who do you mean?
Let's say African Americans.
Okay. I think it's a few different reasons, but first let's just talk about. So we live in a capitalistic world. So that
Agreed.
By default means that some people are going to be behind.
Agreed.
And I could talk about the systems that have allowed us to like stay behind, but like, we've already talked about those things.
Yes.
I think primarily is that besides from people limiting our opportunities, but which should not prevent us from like moving forward. One thing that we need to understand is that saving is key. Saving is key and living below your means.
Oh my God, can you say that one more time?
Saving is key and living below your means. Let me just give you a good example. And this is going to go back to something like you said.
Yes.
I didn't become a doctor overnight. And many people talk about school costs so much, boom, boom, boom. But people are willing to take out a loan for a car. Whoa! People want to take out a loan for a vacation.
It went over their head, huh?
Right. So I came out of medical school, $246,000 in debt.
Wow.
$246,000. That's a big number.
Over $250,000.
Yes.
$250,000.
But I was able to pay that off in less than 4 years.
Wow.
And I didn't change my lifestyle.
Wow.
Because I made sure I lived below my means. Until I had kids, I saved about half of my check. And so I say, don't try to live that $1 million lifestyle unless you making $10 million.
That's the narrative.
Did you hear me?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm gonna tell you something else. When you see people flexing and walking around with all these name brands all over, chances are they ain't got money. Because the people I know with money, most of them, they don't flex.
They don't behave like that.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we all go through those transitions in life. We all go through those stages.
Of course.
But make sure you move through that stage fast.
Yes.
And so make sure that you understand that people rely on you. I don't know how old most of your audience is. Most people don't have kids.
Yes.
They're going to have kids.
They will.
They're going to have grandkids.
They will.
And you and I both know there are hiccups in life. Woo!
Tons of them.
Yes. And so if you've got the means,
Yes.
a hiccup is just that.
Yes.
It's not devastating.
Yes.
As my mother has taught us, any problem that money can solve is not that big of a problem.
Wow.
Right? If you saving your money, it can solve it.
I agree 100% about that. Because, look, even when I look at the guy, Steve Jobs, very, very, very successful man in his own right? Money couldn't buy him from being unsick, right? It took his life ultimately, right? But when you look at things, I look at a lot of people, and I say to them, your behavior patterns are what keeping you from getting to the next level, right?
Love how you frame that.
Yes, it's the behavioral patterns, because I feel like we consistently do it to the point where it becomes indoctrinated into our actions, our day-to-day routines, and ultimately allowing us to stay at a deficit. I tell people all the time, you're not broke because you only broke. You're broke because you have the mentality and you do the actions of the broke, right? A lot of us behave like what broke people do, thinking because we look like wealth, it will make us wealthy. The fake it till you make it mentality, ultimately getting stuck, right? And to a man that's done very well, I have to talk about this from an entrepreneur standpoint to an employee standpoint. What are the differences?
This man came out of my heart today.
I had to.
So, you don't notice, I started off an employee. Yeah, for the first 10 years of my career, I was an employee.
Yes.
And I'm not poo-pooing that.
Yes.
Just as a side note, unless you're coming out of school or coming out of college or high school with your plan already, I recommend being an employee for a few years.
Of course.
Here's why. You get to make mistakes on somebody else's money. Right?
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Yeah.
Listen.
So as long as you know as your employee, you're learning to take it someplace else, that's good.
You know how you know that's a fact what he said? Why do you think I like to throw parties at other people's houses? So I don't have to clean up after.
Same concept. Same concept.
Yes.
And so being an entrepreneur is key, but you've got to have a little fortitude and a little faith.
Yes.
Because you don't have a regular paycheck coming in.
Yes.
And so it forces you to save.
Yes.
Now, if you don't mind me pivoting this to a broader conversation.
Okay.
Let's talk about unemployment in this country.
Oof.
Now, people always talk about the unemployment rate of black folks is high.
It is.
Okay, now this will connect to what you just said.
Yes.
If most businesses are not owned by black folks, and most people hire people who look like them, what's the black unemployment rate going to be?
It's going to get worse.
Yes.
It's going to get worse.
So being an entrepreneur with the goal of hiring folks.
Yes.
Otherwise, a solopreneur is cool to start. Solo means that you're working, it's only you.
Yes.
But your goal should be to hire folks within the community to give them jobs and set them up for for success.
Yes.
Because as you have highlighted, and as your show has highlighted, it's about strengthening the community.
Agreed. 100%. You know what? The one thing that fascinates me is they said $1 stays in the African American community for I think it's like 3 hours. 3 hours. And that bothers me because there's another something I read on the internet. It said the blacks will have a net worth, the average black person will have a net worth in 2053, 0 to -0 by 2053. And that bothers me because, right, I'm worried about my children, right? I'm worried about my grandchildren. And yes, I have some form of literacy to try to deviate them, right? As much as I possibly can. But for those who don't have access to us, right? Those who don't have the relationships with us, how can we help them, right? And that's what always been my premise. Like, how can I help someone who may not have a me or you or someone that's touchable, right? And it's sad, especially with so many people pretending, as we spoke earlier, so many people pretend to be so much grander than what they are. How do we help these people?
That's great. First question, and then you're right. If you say that they can't reach out and touch us,
yes,
I believe this is when giving to your community helps. Although they may not be able to reach out and touch us, you can volunteer.
Yes,
and given that that social media thing is schizophrenic.
Yes,
but people are on it. You can create what like you do.
Yes.
A podcast that helps uplift. Give people access. But one thing that I do wherever I go, if I run across a young brother, somebody, and I see that it's something I can say to like encourage them, that's what I do.
Yes.
Because in life, if you listen to great people, you often hear a story about somebody reaching out to them and giving a word of encouragement at that right moment.
Yes.
And that's what God calls us to do. And I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to go and say it. You said if you want to. Many people believe that God is this person far off in the sky, sitting down watching us. No, God is right there inside of you.
I believe so.
It's you and God. God is just stronger in you. But God wants life to be good for you.
Yes.
So as long as you recognize that life is supposed to be good, and that is your mindset, then you wake up thinking, I'm going to win.
Yes.
I'm going to win every day because the God in you says you're going to win.
I agree.
And the God in you wants you to win.
100%. Today I was talking on a panel, and I said a lot of the times growing up, I heard money is the root of all evil. But then I went back and read the Bible myself, and it says the love of money is the root of all evil. That's a major change in the sentence when you take money is the root of all evil, opposed to for the love of money is the root of all evil. And I tell people, I don't think God has created us to struggle and to live in this part. Your starting point is one thing, but it's an accepted fate to stay there when you're working against yourself and getting out of it. Right? When we know that money is should be respected, right, and utilized accordingly. Like you said earlier, living in your means, right? That is a mean statement. Living in your means, right? I'm an advocate believer in living in your means. No matter what level I'm at, you won't be able to tell because I'm going to always sustain and maintain my situation comfortably rather than economically overly trying to compensate for my insecurities. And I've noticed that's what a lot of people do. Would you agree with that, Doctor?
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah.
They try to live big to compensate for the insecurity.
Yes.
What they don't recognize is the bigger you are inside, the less you got to prove. Because keep in mind, people forget that thoughts are creative. What you think about consistently is what's going to happen to you. And so what I always encourage people is,
Manifestation.
Set your phone 5 times.
Yes.
To say it just goes off. As soon as it goes off, ask yourself, what am I thinking? Do that for 2 or 3 days, and you'll know what your baseline is. Are you thinking, oh, I gotta pay for this bill, I gotta pay for that bill? Then you have a baseline of lack.
Yes.
If you're thinking, oh, I cannot wait to go and finish medical school, you're gonna be a doctor then.
Yes.
And here's the beauty. You can always change your thought. You can always change your thought process. But again,
Yes.
thoughts are creative. And as long as you believe that and you choose good thoughts consistently,
Yes.
good is going to happen to you. That's a universal law.
I gotta ask this. We speak a ton of his success, right? Very accomplished man. What was some of the hardest things you faced, even in your professional career? What are some of the hardest things you faced?
Oh, brother, he hit me, y'all. So I'm 56. Full disclosure.
Okay.
I used to think that there was an enemy that I was at a war. I was battling. And for my white colleagues out there, I actually thought that y'all were against me and I was battling you. And that's why I was so hard on y'all. That's why I was whipping y'all. And that was wrong. Because there is no battle.
No.
It's a battle within.
Self. Yep.
It's
Self.
just you and
Yes.
self.
Yes.
And I can just say, just like I mentioned race, there have been some white folks who reached down and touched me and looked out for me.
Yes.
Been some black folks who reached out and touched me
Yes.
and looked out for me.
Yes.
But back to your question, the biggest lesson that I've known, there's no battle. There's only goals. And I'm the only person who I've got something to prove to. You know, so the battle is truly
Yes.
within.
Yes.
And this is the part where you're going to lose, folks.
Yes. Watch this.
There are no victims. And
100% fact.
oh, and that's gonna hurt people.
Yes, it is.
Because it's easy to live in victimization. And don't get me wrong. Stuff has happened to me.
Yes.
And you say, you did it.
Yes.
But as I've gotten older and I've lived less in my carnal world, the world, me and you, and
Yes.
into my spiritual world.
Accountability.
world, it's my thoughts.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
my thoughts about things.
Yes.
And again, and for those of you who are listening and you disagree, it's okay.
Yes.
It takes a moment to get there. Because some people, it's easy to say, you did it, he did it, he
Yes.
did it. And I've been there. So I don't want you to think I'm special. I've been there.
Agreed.
It's been in the growth that God's allowed me that everything is me.
It's on you.
Yeah.
100%. The other day, we actually got to meet the other day through a good friend of ours, right? And when me and this guy got on the phone, this man, this brother, right? We got on the phone. It's like we knew each other before we knew each other. Mind, guys, this is the first day we're actually sitting down meeting each other. And once you have that mentality, you speak the same language. Success speaks the same language, right? And that's what I'm a firm believer in. The laws of attraction are real. It's not by circumstance that me and him are sitting here together today. This was manifested because I already spoke it into existence. So has he. We knew that what we want from life, and we put it out to the universe with our actions, right? I told a girl the other day, she got a little upset with me. She said, the term, you have not because you ask not. I said, but in the same premise, the Bible says, faith without work is dead. So she said it again, but you have not because you ask not. And I said, but he's not saying verbally. He's saying with your actions. And I said, that's what I genuinely believe is the actions that manifestate success.
Yes.
Am I willing to? As a doctor, I can only imagine the times you had to sacrifice not hanging out to study, right? But we're going to only look at the fact that he's a doctor. We're not going to look at the fact that he sacrificed to get that title, right? And it was a lot of long nights and a lot of long days. And I can only imagine how many times you thought about quitting and giving up, but you fought. Right? You fought.
Yeah.
And look at the fact he born with a stuttering problem, but never let that be an excuse. He said there is no victims. No victims. Right? We're gonna make the world our victims because we're gonna go hard. And that's what I love.
So let me just clarify that there are no victims.
Yes.
And I'm still grappling with this, so I don't have all the answers. So
Yes.
it's, in general, there are no victims because I've been called to the mat. I don't have the answer for this. So
Yes.
you know, people who as a child they were assaulted in different ways.
That's different.
I have those answers.
Yes.
So and so there are spaces that I haven't figured out, but there's an answer from that somewhere.
Yes.
So outside of those circumstances,
Those are exceptions.
yes,
Those
I
are
am
exceptions.
saying that when it
Yes.
comes to our success in life, there are no victims.
This I agree with.
Yes.
We basically saying that there are certain people that are born with extra ordinary circumstances, right? And I get that. Let's be real. We have to give them that understanding, right? But the other day I went to a college graduation. The guy that actually graduated was born with autism. He's on the spectrum. You know what he said in the speech, and it touched me so much? He said, "It's funny how people tease me because I was born with a disability, but yet and still you don't laugh at people who weren't born with a disability who do absolutely nothing with their lives."
Ooh.
And I looked at him and said, wow. When I say powerful, right, talking about power, he's basically saying, I'm up here getting my degree, born with a disability, right? And I'm still up here fighting because I believe in myself. So if you can't find inspiration in something like that, then I don't know what else is there to find inspiration. I'm finding more inspiration in my brother sitting next to him today, right? And I love being around certain energy because I believe that conversationally we transfer energy. And you know how you can validate this? You ever got a phone call and someone says something that just messed up your whole day? Mm-hmm. So therefore, I don't allow people to even call my phone with that anymore.
No.
If you ain't calling to talk about something positive, don't call my phone.
You actually got to go through a few layers to get to me. But hold on, I do want to pivot because I want to nail it on the head.
Yes.
Because someone is struggling with what I just said, and it's my goal to always leave people elevated.
Yes.
And that is, when I say there are no victims, I'm mainly talking about where you go in life.
Yes.
As an ER doctor, you often guess I see a bunch of stuff.
Wow. Could only imagine.
And so for people who've been physically assaulted, sexually assaulted, mentally assaulted, especially at a very young age, I'm sorry. And I am not saying that you were not a victim as it relates to that.
I get what you're saying.
So I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
And for those people who that's happened to you, I am so incredibly sorry if no one's apologized to you.
Yes.
But just the fact you're listening to this says that you're moving forward already.
Wow.
And congratulations. And forgiveness in life is key. And I'm not saying you got to be friends with somebody.
Yes.
Forgiveness.
Yes.
And what I've learned for like me is just forgiving myself at times.
Yes.
Because sometimes we blame ourselves for things that happen to us. Forgiving yourself is key in life.
Yes.
There's been a lot of people I know who I can tell you just angry. And it's because they have not forgiven the other person or themselves.
Yes.
But if you forgive it, forgive yourself, and it may take a moment.
Yes.
So give yourself, say, hey, I'm going to mull over it, I'm going to cry, I'm going to feel down. Give yourself a week.
Yes.
And when that week is over, say, hey, I've got to move forward.
Of course. Piggybacking off what you just said, a lot of the times when you have people who complain about things, right? A lot of the times the person that they're mad at, they're not losing sleep.
They're not.
They're not losing any sleep. So sometimes I get the things, like he said, the extraordinary things, right? We're talking about people that may go to jobs and they don't like their coworkers. You're not there to make friends, you're there to make a paycheck. So let's establish that, right? You're there to get paid. I notice a lot of people who take jobs and automatically they want to be everyone's friend, right? You're not there for friendship, you're there for economics, right? So sometimes with pursuing economics, you may not like the situation, but you understand what is the premise of the situation, and you're there for a paycheck so you can provide and create stability for oneself, right? And your family.
Which brings you back to the point you made earlier about the employee status. Just keep in mind, as an employee, somebody's making more money off of you than what they're paying.
100%.
Real talk?
100%.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur.
No, of course not.
We need some employees, but just as long as everyone recognize the hustle, because everything's a hustle.
Yeah, of course.
They talk about us hustling, but everything
is a hustle.
And your hustle is simply how you make. Yeah, it's
capitalism. Bro.
Yeah.
But you know something? The reason why he's able to say everyone can't be an entrepreneur is that everyone don't have. See, when the ship is sailing good, everyone loves the ship, right? We all want to be the captain of the boat when everything is flowing. But when you're parking it and you hit something, who's going to stand up and say, I did that?
Yeah.
A lot of people won't do that, right?
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, I'm pretty sure you've had these.
Man.
You've had these.
I've had those, and COVID brought it home. But as a result of having, I got a gift for you as a result of having those. So speaking of entrepreneurs,
we love gifts.
Got a gift. So COVID, let me just set this up for you. As a result of COVID, I was doing all these national interviews, right?
Yes.
And so when you're doing these national interviews, it forces you to stay on top of all the literature. But I started doing all those national interviews because I was in charge of the emergency response for Ebola for Washington, D.C. many, many years ago.
Wow.
So then, therefore, when COVID came, they asked me all these interviews.
Yes.
What I learned was there were certain supplements
Yes.
that could help people against viruses. They could help people even help you with like COVID.
Yes.
So I went on, and this is my gift to you, and I created a whole supplements line. It's called Shield Vitamins. It's got vitamin D, and let me tell you just real quick. I want your audience to slow down and listen to it. So the reason why vitamin D is so important is on every single cell of your immune system.
Yes.
Every single cell.
Yes.
And your immune system's key.
Yes.
Now, this is one of the few times in medicine that race matters.
Yes.
So for people who have pigment in their skin, like me and you,
Yes.
we are most likely vitamin D deficient. We don't have enough.
Wow.
Here's why. Most of our vitamin D comes from the sun.
Yes.
It's processed on our skin.
Yes.
But due to the pigment in our skin, we don't process it as well. And that's why 87% of Black Americans are vitamin D deficient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I created Shield Vitamins, gives you vitamin D. Vitamin C also helps you with your immune system and wound healing. And then what the studies show, elderberry, echinacea, zinc, all have been known to help you with like many viruses. So I created a immunity kit for everybody. And by the way, what we also know is that even if you don't have pigment in your skin, if you're older because the skin changes,
Yes.
you're more likely to be vitamin D deficient. So brother, here it is for you, brother.
Listen, guys.
Hey, be shield strong, protect
I'ma show you
you and your family.
QR code.
And brother, I got one for you too, man.
Listen, I learned something new. That's why I tell guys, always be a student in life. We don't know it all, right? Today, he actually showed and taught me something that I had no clue on. And I'm comfortable to say this to you guys. Always be the student. It doesn't hurt to learn something. I think when you get to the point where you think you know too much, you stop learning, right? I don't know everything. Most of us don't use half of our brain's capabilities, right? In the capacity that we can use. And a lot of times the fact of the matter is we don't learn because we don't get around people that's teaching us. And sometimes we don't have the humbleness to listen and learn. Today I've learned something extremely new. I'm gonna watch this a few times to hear what he just told me, so I'll make sure I know exactly. I'm not gonna be vitamin D deficient at all. I'm making sure of that. I didn't even know. I'll be honest.
I'm glad you mentioned that. And so just for everyone of all colors and races, being vitamin D deficient, it creates issues with mental health often.
Wow.
Creates issues with blood pressure even. And there's some cancers that are tied to being vitamin D deficient. But I do want to pivot to something that you said, and that is to the young people.
Yes.
And no matter what and you and I can agree.
Yes.
There's no matter what you do in life, hard work is key. And hard work, everybody's hard work is like different, but being disciplined is key. As you said, being a lifelong learner, man, I get up 7 days a week and read. 7 days a week. I'm not talking about medicine.
Yes.
I'm just talking about life. And here's why. Here's another reason why. Being an ER doctor, it's been a few times. Patients who weren't even my patients because of my color, they would want to come and ask me a question.
Wow.
These were older people.
Wow.
Life questions.
Wow.
Their loved one was sick and dying,
Wow.
and they would ask me questions that had nothing to do with medicine.
Wow.
So what I realized it was important for me to have a large breadth of knowledge till I draw from. And how do you get the large breadth of knowledge? People,
Yes.
experiences,
Yes.
and reading.
Yes.
And so having enough knowledge so that I can at least be available as a resource is key.
Yes.
And the more you read, the more you grow.
Right? That's a Varner. That's a movie theater. Yeah, that's a real theater. Beautiful. Oh,
Yeah, this room's kind of old, so I'm dead now.
oh, this is amazing.
Now, here's the new room. This room was added during COVID. Oh, my wife she just was. Yeah, sorry about that. She just moved it out a second ago.
Beautiful trim.
Wow.
See the Peloton?
Yeah, but she got.
We got the Peloton. That's legit.
Believe it or not, I don't even know that.
No. Let me show the photo. Try to show the photos.
I won't.
Let me see, you don't live, we don't try to show the folks, right? Okay, cool. I was telling you that people that look like us only believe things when they see it, right? I was telling them, I said, you gotta show the success. People won't believe it, they won't believe it. As you guys can see, your start don't mean the ending, right? And this man has proven this today, even allowing us into his beautiful home. And I'm gonna let him finish off with the final remarks.
Hey, brother. I like what you're doing for the community.
I appreciate it.
It's all about encouragement.
Yes.
It's all about motivation.
Yes.
And it's all about seeking your higher level self.
Yes.
So thank you for like coming in and,
Yes.
and stay strong and continue to change the world.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you, my brother.